Greet our friends everywhere with Chapter 20 of To Ask No Man, the story of George Mueller's incredible adventure with God. This is another in the series Stories of Great Christians, brought to you by the Moody Bible Institute of Chicago.
As George leaned back in his upholstered armchair behind his desk, and Terence perched uncomfortably on the squeaky little rattan chair against the wall, a smile kept pulling at the corners of George's mouth. He was bursting to talk about his big surprise. Just that week, late in March 1843, the widow from the Lake Country had deposited a small fortune to his account in the Bristol Bank. That morning, the orphanages were wealthier than George had dreamed they ever would be. It must have seemed to him that the dark days of fretting over money were gone forever. And then this news about the unexpected availability of a home, just right in location and size. To George, it was more than a coincidence. It was...
The hand of God, Brother Terence. The hand of God.
Seems that way, Mr. Mueller. All that money... just out of nowhere.
For 6 years, not a house to rent on Wilson Street. Not big enough, anyway. Then this, the very same week.
Yes, it is God's doing for sure, Mr. Mueller.
First time in 6 years. And she's so close by.
Would be handy, next door, but what about a staff?
Again, the hand of God. Last week, 2 women volunteered. I had to say, I have no place to put you.
Then everything's all settled.
Nine, Brother Terence. Not so fast. Nothing is settled.
But I can't...
Not just poof like that. I don't do things that way, never.
But this time the money...
This time I pray about it, like always. And pray well. Is this the hand of God, Terence? Is he wanting me to dare with 4 orphanages now?
But he sent the money,
Is he wanting me to spend this money to help more children? Or is he wanting me to... Is God wanting me to...
Oh, you've had it, Master Colin. Broke right in two.
Is he wanting me to...
You've tried me long enough. Now march.
What goes on?
Master Colin, you're due for a caning, you are.
Terence, will you...
Surely. It's Mrs. Toombley, sir.
So I heard.
It's Colin again. Toombley seems quite beside herself. She wonders, would you see...
Speak to the boy? Yeah, Terence. Send Colin in. We finish our talk later. Well, Colin, sit down.
All right.
Oh, not by the wall. Here, there's another seat behind my desk, just for talking. What did you do this time, Colin?
Slid down the banisters.
Well, that's not so terrible.
I broke it.
Broke it? Such a slim fellow like you.
It wasn't just me. About 6 of us. Maybe a kind of chain and...
6 is too many.
I know.
There's a rule. 2 at a time.
Yes, sir.
Was your idea?
Mm-hmm.
The 6, your friends?
Yes, sir.
Colin, always it's the same story. When you get yourself into a scrape, it's 6 others too, or 10. Never you alone.
No, sir.
Why, Colin?
Don't know.
Always you hide in a gang. Almost like you're afraid to be alone. Colin, are you lonesome? Is that it?
Might be.
Why?
If my cousin was here, I wouldn't be.
Who's your cousin?
Roger Pitts.
Who?
He wanted to come, too. You wouldn't let him.
Wouldn't let your cousin
You
come?
told Granny wasn't no room for him. If he was here, I wouldn't be lonesome. Him and me, we was always together.
This Roger, he's with your granny?
No more. He got took off to the almshouse. I bet he breaks more than banisters for him.
How old is Rachi?
About the size of me. He's got a sister, too. Ruthie.
How old is Ruthie?
Awful old. Like your little girl. 13 anyway, I think.
Colin, you know Mrs. Twombly wants me to cane you.
Mm-hmm.
You won't tell her if I don't, Nine?
No, sir.
Well, you run along now.
Yes, sir.
I've some thinking I want to do about your cousin.
What's that, sir?
I'll tell you all about it at the next prayer meeting. But meanwhile, don't get lonesome again, please.
Well, George, old chap, I expected to find you out here. So you scarcely let the snow melt before you get out in this garden.
Best spot in Bristol for pacing and thinking.
And praying, I suspect. Huh, you say it is peaceful, isn't it?
Tucked away from all the Paul Street traffic.
And all the giggling little Wilson Street girls and fighting little Wilson Street boys.
Ah, Henry, easy to see why God didn't call you to the orphanage work. Yeah, this garden is good for deciding.
I wonder.
What?
George, a month ago you started thinking about renting the Wilson Street house.
Exactly 22 days.
All right, you pace back and forth, you pray, you think.
For 22 days, I pray every day.
But you still haven't decided. Why, old man, by now it jolly well may have slipped through your fingers.
Nonsense. The house is still there.
George, I think you've decided. You've decided you don't want that house. Decided that the whole experiment is a mistake. But you won't admit it.
Henry.
And what are you waiting for? Not for want of children, that's sure. Bristol's full of them.
No, not that. Not at all. Henry, wait for a sign from God.
Oh, I wonder. I think you're tired of all this business of hazardous living.
Stop it, Henry. I have my sign.
What on earth are you talking about? I didn't see any bolt of lightning. Sometimes I think you've gone quite daffy.
You are the sign.
Now, what the dickens...
Tired of depending on God, am I? Sick of my project. Want to toss over the orphanages. So that's what it looks like to you.
Well, I only said...
So maybe it looks that way to everybody. Then I rent the house on Wilson Street and prove we survived 7 years of trials. And we survive 7 years more if we must.
Oh, now, don't be rash, old man. I only meant
Now
to...
I know. It's for Colin's cousin.
Who?
And all the rest. But especially for all the sneering skeptics like you, Henry Craig. George Mueller will take the Wilson Street house and open up his 4th orphanage.
But, Mr. Mueller, that was a month ago I spoke to your Mr. Terence. A full month ago.
Just 22 days, Mr. Greeley.
I wish you'd have come sooner.
As soon as I could, I
Well,
came.
you certainly didn't hurry. I suppose that's your German nature, stolid and slow. Well, I'm not like that.
Mr. Greeley, I need your house.
Well, it's quite out of the question now. My daughter and I need it too.
But 22 days ago, you decided to move.
So we did. If you'd acted fast, we wouldn't have changed our minds.
But this house, it's just right for an orphanage. Big rooms, good-sized kitchen.
Just right for a man and his daughter. Oh, I know it's big, but it has everything we're used to. My daughter's sewing room, for instance. Now, we looked at half a dozen places, but there wasn't one that had a suitable room for her needlework and embroidery, light and airy.
There must be other places in Bristol.
We looked. We couldn't find any, so we changed our minds.
You won't look at anything else?
Well, there is another week before the end of the month. We may do a little more looking. You might pop around the end of the week, but I don't hold any hope.
I do.
What do you mean, Mr. Mueller?
Just this. You forget something else about the German nature.
Hmm?
She is determined. She is also very stubborn.
What's that? I don't quite understand, Mr. Mueller.
Lord, this week will decide. Lord, push Mr. Greeley out of that house of his to find another place. See that he doesn't stop at the first place. Make him keep on looking.
Afternoon, ma'am. I noticed a sign on your window that said the house next door was to let. Would you mind showing it to me? Yes, sir, I know it isn't easy to find something suitable for an old man and his daughter, but, well, I thought you might have something listed. Certainly not. The cellar's musty and the attic has rats. I won't consider it, madam.
Lord, don't let Mr. Greeley get discouraged. turn his footsteps down the right streets. Let the right house just sit there waiting for him.
I've been down this street a dozen times, sir, and I've never noticed this little place here before. Looks like just the right size for two. Tell me, sir, that room on the third floor up there, does it have plenty of light? Would you say it would be acceptable to a lady for a sewing room?
Please, God, put it all in your hands. The orphans and the folks who think George Mueller's getting sick of his adventure with you.
Well, Mr. Mueller, come in. I thought you'd be over before this.
You said a week.
So I did. Oh, come in.
First, I must know, what about the house?
Well, Mr. Mueller, we found just what we were looking for. There's even a room on the third floor with a skylight. For Nettie's needlework,
We can take this one?
Certainly.
Praise the Lord.
Wowee!
Colin!
Bully for us!
What's that?
Colin! Watch him, he's on your stairs. Colin, what do you?
Trying out the barristers, Mr. Mueller, for my cousin and me.
So in July 1843, they moved into number 4 Wilson Street, the 4th house to become an orphanage. One hot July day, they swarmed up the sidewalk and in through the big oak door. 2 little red-headed girls carrying dolls. A boy with a face smeared with freckles. A boy who blew a toy trumpet all the way. 2 more who pummeled each other right up to the door and into the house. 1 little girl with a cold, and Colin and his cousin about the size of him, who ran right through the door and up the stairs and then...
Hey, bully banisters!
And at the door, George shooed them all in, grinning at everybody. Things had never looked so good for his adventure with the almighty benefactor. Things went along smoothly for about 2 years, and then...
Confound them brats, Bessie, they did it again.
Another window, Pa.
Not just a window, where's the skylight?
You ought to get the law in order after them brats.
3rd window in 3 months.
They've ruined our street, too. Makes so much racket a body can't sleep afternoons.
They asked for it and they're going to get it.
What are you going to do, Pa?
Write a letter.
To the law and order?
No, better than that, to Mueller himself.
Oh, that won't do no good.
Yes, it will.
Letters won't touch that stubborn German.
This one will. I'm going to say either he gets out or else.
Gets out?
Closes up every single one of them Wilson Street homes or else.
Or else what?
Or else I'll find a way to get him closed up. Give me my pen, Bessie.
And so we conclude Chapter 20 of To Ask No Man, the story of George Mueller's incredible adventure with God. This is another in the series Stories of Great Christians, which come to you transcribed from the Moody Bible Institute of Chicago.